Hi. Government promises tough action against the operators of the cruise ship that left for Mozambique a few days ago, despite the imposition of a travel ban. Gauteng sets up an executive committee to help deal with the coronavirus outbreak. Premier David Makhura says they won't think twice about shutting down establishments. And the KwaZulu-Natal Premier says there are encouraging signs that Covid-19 can be defeated. It's after the province's first patient recovers. And coming up in your sport, SAFA President Danny Jordan says it's the association's responsibility alone to decide the future of local football amid the coronavirus outbreak. You're live on News at Prime. It's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. I'm Kathy Musakana. Coming up in the next hour, we'll be in conversation with the Iranian representative in South Africa. We'll be talking about the coronavirus, the impact it's had on that country. We'll also find out if there are any tips and advice that South Africa can and should be following to avoid the crisis that we're seeing then. We also then talk about alternatives in terms of protecting yourself, sanitizing your homes. Of course, we've heard about how shops have completely run out of sanitizers, but what are the alternatives? Do you in fact need it as the go-to point in terms of having then different detergents to help you there? So we'll have a conversation about that a little later tonight. A cruise ship with more than 1,700 passengers is facing a coronavirus scare. 6 passengers were evacuated and taken to hospital for tests. Our reporter Atim Tongana is monitoring things tonight, and she joins me live now from Cape Town. Ati, good evening. We know that that cruise ship, of course, has been sitting there for some time, waiting on a way forward, now that the results for all those who were taken for testing has come out negative.
Well, Kathy, I'd like to begin here. The Minister of Transport, Fikile Mbalula, today, of course, highlighted one particular cruise ship, MSC Orchestra, which decided to leave today, knowing very well that the ban on cruise ships would come into effect today. And by the time they returned to South Africa, the ban of cruise ships being in South African waters would come into effect. And he said that, of course, they will deal with it in terms of the new regulations that come into effect today. It will be isolated when it returns from Mozambique, and it will be a quarantined vessel. He mentioned that, of course, that step shouldn't have been taken by that cruise liner, knowing very well that South Africa is trying to do all it can to try and deal with the coronavirus, with the president announcing, of course, a state disaster. Now, the one behind me, Kathy, like you rightfully put it, has had about 6 members, 6 passengers, and about six crew members. Well, this number includes passengers as well as crew members who were evacuated. This ship has been here since Monday, so those passengers, including some crew members, were evacuated, of course, following their disclosure that they had been in contact with a patient that tested positive for coronavirus when they traveled back to South Africa from Turkey. And when they got to South Africa, they noticed that one of the crew member exhibited symptoms of coronavirus. That patient was then evacuated together with those that were in contact with that crew member, and they have since tested negative for coronavirus. But for those that remain here, over 1,700 of them, their fate has been decided today in that the quarantine has been lifted. But of course, there are strict measures that have to take take place now before they disembark with regards to the new regulations that have come into effect today. So they won't just disembark and leave. The minister said they will have to go under very intense scrutiny. They will have to be screened before heading back to their home countries. They come from Germany. In fact, earlier on we overheard them speaking German, speaking to their counterparts on the other side, and we were trying to make out what they were saying. They look like they're in very good spirits, and they were just speaking about how they want Wi-Fi so they can try to monitor what's being said about them, because remember, they have been here since Monday and they've been waiting to find out what the decision is in terms of them disembarking from the ship.
Well, certainly, I suppose for those holiday makers, that cruise ship has everything that they would have needed for the duration of their stay. So coming off is not really urgent from, a running out of basics point of view. But just the interactions that they're having with people from across the dock, give us a sense of what's been happening throughout the day.
Well, what's been happening throughout the day, they've just been stepping out, looking at members of the media who are here, of course, for that briefing by the Minister of Transport, Fikile Mbalula, as well as the Minister of Home Affairs, Aaron Motsoaledi. And like I said before, they're in very good spirits. They've been waving, speaking German, trying to interact with those on the other side. And, of course, knowing that today those that were with them have tested negative for coronavirus is very relieving for them. They look like they're in very good spirits. They have really celebrated that. In fact, they were celebrating during that press briefing when they heard that the 6 members, including some passengers, have tested negative for COVID-19. I'm going to briefly step out of shot so we can see some of them. And I think just the idea of being under quarantine is something that a lot of people are very fearful of, and something that a lot of people are very skeptical about. But for these particular passengers, I think it is one that is particularly unique in that they are still in a cruise ship. So all the basics that were availed to them will continue until they get to disembark. Kathy.
All right, actually, let's leave it there for tonight. And you're watching those visuals of the holiday makers that are still on board that cruise liner, waiting then for the next step. The Zero Dropout campaign is calling on parents and communities to play their part in mitigating the impact of the COVID-19 fallout. The non-governmental organization has expressed concerns about the early closure of schools, fearing it will result in the disruption of the school nutrition program. Now, earlier, of course, that particular organization speaking to us and telling us the importance of communities in getting involved and in assisting then the learners that would be out and about during this time. And of course, the issue they've raised there is that many NGOs who would ordinarily operate during school holidays have shut their doors out of a way of having to comply with some of the regulations that have been put forth by the state. So therefore, the buffer that these learners would have isn't really there. So it really is up to communities then to lend that extra helping hand. Now, the Gauteng government has ruled out the possibility of mass screenings for coronavirus. So far, the province has recorded 61 out of South Africa's 116 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Newsroom Africa's Malungelo Boy has more.
David Makura does not want people to hold weddings and funerals without a permit from police. This is just one of several measures the province is using as it attempts to halt the spread of COVID-19. Gauteng is the epicenter of the local outbreak. A team of 6 MECs have been tasked with protecting the province's 15 million strong population. A war room, massive awareness drives, and more tracers are some of the measures proposed. Officials will also identify quarantine sites in all districts. More testing kits will be procured and sanitizers will be made available in public transport and government buildings. Gauteng officials are ruling out the possibility of mass screenings.
The issue of mass screening doesn't make sense in terms of resource aspect of it.
Some services at the province's hospitals will be scaled down to prepare for COVID-19.
When we talk about downscaling, we're talking about almost putting the system almost at rest in terms of services, so that we don't deal with a lot of pressure in the system. So it's what we do normally over vacations and over holidays, particularly holidays like your festive season, because that's where we cancel or we postpone or put into abeyance operations that are not essential.
Makhura says everyone must get involved.
We want to call on retired doctors and retired nurses across the province, in every community where there are retired health workers. We want them to come back in their communities where they are. We want them to join these action groups to offer their skills, to offer what is their remaining energy to the nation in confronting this.
David Makhura says he's also appointed a team that will look at the impact COVID-19 will have on the province's economy. For Newsroom Africa on Channel 405, I'm Malungelo Bui in Midrand.
Now, the city of Cape Town is closing many of its public facilities to help stem the spread of COVID-19. Swimming pools, campsites, recreational hubs, stadiums and community halls have been shut until further notice. The city says its primary care clinics aren't yet testing people for the virus. Officials say Tygerberg Hospital is still the designated facility for the isolation of COVID-19 patients. Newsroom Africa's Nasi Pisame has more.
The city says it's planning to decentralize testing and isolation centers in anticipation of further spread of COVID-19. This after a recent spike in the number of reported cases.
We don't want to be caught at the back end of COVID-19. We want to be able to prepare so that we are ready to anticipate and manage any increase in cases that we may see in the city.
As government continues to introduce measures to slow the spread of the virus, many industries will be hard hit by the coronavirus pandemic. However, some, like public transport, will have to introduce a new normal for commuters.
We have also been engaging with the taxi industry to ensure that they educate not only commuters but also drivers to preach this gospel of safety against coronavirus.
With a long list of don'ts, how does one practice social distancing when circumstances do not allow? Arthur Williams is one of the few taxi drivers in Cape Town walking the talk. He says the implementation of precautionary measures to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 should be mandatory.
Every passenger gets inside, there's gloves, there's masks. Every time we get out with a touch, I take the choice food, wash, I'm not sure. When you interact with the passengers, use gloves, don't, whatever. But this is the way that we're all every day trying to prevent some of spreading.
For Newsroom Africa on Channel 405, I am Nasi Pisame in Cape Town.
Okay, sure. Alrighty.
Husseini. Yes, but not representative of Iran embassy.
Yes.
Not Iran, from Iran embassy.
Thanks for staying with News at Prime tonight. Now, Iran has issued its most dire warning yet about the new coronavirus outbreak ravaging the country. Government has suggested that millions could die in the Islamic Republic if people keep traveling and ignoring the health advisories. Iran has become one of the worst affected countries in the world, with over 17,000 infections and around over 1,000 deaths. Let's discuss how the country is coping. We're joined by Sahed Hosseini, who is an Iranian citizen in South Africa and an expert in Middle East issues. Good evening, and thank you so much for your time on News at Prime. One of the difficulties that the Iranian government is facing is people simply not abiding to with some of the restrictions that they've put in place. Why is that the case?
Well, Iran is an active nation, maybe, and I think that's the reason. But maybe lack of information, or there are some resistance from some of the celebrities or some of the media sources which had such an initiative that's not a serious issue and don't take it serious. But recently they are taking it really seriously. When they saw with their two eyes that so many people are dying, so they are coming up to their senses and they are taking it seriously at the moment.
The projections that have been announced, at least on state television in Iran, could see one of the biggest trajectories of this virus in the world if in fact it's true to the numbers. How credible do you think those figures are?
Well, the same figures has been given concerning UK and Germany also. Concerning UK, they announced officially that if we don't take proper measurements, up to 80% of UK people may get it. And concerning Germany also the same. It's just probably a warning sentence or a warning strategy to awake the nation and for them to take the issue seriously. But according to the World Health Organization and their official who visited, the status of medical readiness and medical equipments and medical technician teams who are attending to this issue are quite impressive. And although this is an epidemic which all nations cannot cope with, but because of this health system which is established in Iran, I think like government organizations and government hospitals in a very good condition. So they are hosting it, and they are, well, there is another issue that we have to also mention. Iran is under sanction for the last 40 years by the American. And it's just one of those sad things to say that even in this condition, the Americans are not ready to lift the sanction, a dying nation, the same disease which Americans themselves also are facing this challenge today. And yesterday, President Trump has announced more than $1 trillion budget for such a crisis. But when it comes to Iran, they can watch that the Iranian people, with the lack of facilities that they have, they can die. And in spite of all of those pressure from all over the world for them to lift the sanction, but still they're adamant about continuation of the genocide that they have, the decision that they have taken to punish the Iranian nation just because they don't like American administration.
Let's talk about how ordinary people, your fellow countrymen, then are responding to this. Have you spoken to people back home? What are they telling you about how they're trying to...
Well, yes, my own son-in-law and my daughter is contracted with the disease, and they are in quarantine in the house. And a lot of other, 6 of my friends has actually passed away having this disease. But I have been speaking to a lot of authorities. They are they're saying that whatever we have in our capacity in our hospitals are ready to, to serve people. Already some measurements from government has been taken to compensate some of the, oppressed people or some of those underprivileged members of the society whom they lost business or something. There are already some measurements to compensate. Besides that, there is an amazing phenomenon in Iran, a type of contribution by the nation, like volunteers who goes to the hospital and help people whom, you can see some of the house owners whom they don't pressurize their tenants to pay on time. A type of cooperation together to deal with this disease and defeat this disease. You can see in all over the society a type of compassion toward each other, which an American writer yesterday has written an article about this, saying that I was supposed to go back to United States, but the flights cancelled, and I was very worried that what I'm going to do in this country. But I'm very happy that I didn't go to United States, because the shops are empty, people are, attacking to the stores to buy. There is no such competition in Iran. People are behaving normally. Shops are full of goods. People just buy whatever they need, and they say we are very thankful that we are here, not in the United States.
And I mean, it's impacted you quite personally, as you were just telling us about your close family members that have contracted the disease, but also losing very close friends to it. Are you concerned then when you see the impact that it has had back home, and you're watching the numbers in South Africa increase on a day-to-day? Are you concerned about your own safety here?
Well, that's the reason that I have established a WhatsApp group, Corona Awareness, which on the first hours of establishment, the group was full, 250-something members are there, just to share the experience and transmit whatever I get the news from Iran, because I know this has to be taken very serious by South African. And the only solution for this, for us to come over, is to stay at home. Don't communicate, don't socialize, don't go out. Stay at home, be away from every single person, even when you have dear ones, even your parents, even your closest friends. And I have to really also thank the President, who has taken drastic measures to control this on the first stage. And I hope South African government will deal with this adequately and on time, timelessly, and also properly.
All right, Syed Hosseini, let me thank you
for
your time coming on to News at Prime, and of course just sharing a little bit of that story and the experiences that he's hearing about from back home in Iran, which is now the third highest country that's battling not just a rate of infection, but also trying to curb the number of people who are dying from COVID-19. Let's continue here. We bring you back home. The Gift of the Givers has set up a testing facility for the coronavirus at half the price charged by private labs. The non-governmental organization has set up a drive-through in Mayfair, Johannesburg. Here, patients who need to see both a doctor and get assessed are able to do so with minimal risk. Newsroom Africa's Zianda Ngobo has the details.
On Wednesday, the National Institute of Communicable Diseases said that a total of over 2,900 suspected cases of COVID-19 have been tested by public and private laboratories. With the news that there are now local transmissions in South Africa, the number of citizens wanting to get tested is likely to increase. This is why organizations such as the Gift of the Givers are stepping in to alleviate the pressure.
The affordability, number one, of the test is a serious issue. We want to reduce the costs across the board. We're working closely with government to identify alternative testing methods that could be, number one, at a much lower cost far quicker results and far more accurate results.
Unlike private laboratories where citizens are likely to pay between 900 and 1,200 rand for the test alone, Gift of the Givers is offering services to see both a doctor and get a lab assessment for 1,000 rand. According to the NICD regulations, one needs to have seen a GP first to check for symptoms before getting a swab test. It's exactly this swab that has been taken from my nose, which will be taken to the nearest lab, and results are likely to be returned within 24 to 48 hours. The NGO is in talks with the Chinese government to get sample kits which give results within 3 hours. There's also an effort to get more medical supplies for testing from that country.
What we've done is that we've had strategic relationships with government as well as with Muller Labs. We've worked closely together on the costing model so that we can reduce the cost to about 50% of what it would be if you had to go to a private lab. Within the next day or so, we'll have answers from the China government where we would try to reduce that cost even further. So a person who would not normally be able to afford to walk into a private lab can walk into one of our testing stations and test their status.
The Gift of the Givers is using its facility in Mayfair as a pilot project for other possible testing stations to be opened across the country. For Newsroom Africa on Channel 405, I'm Zianda Ngobo in Johannesburg.
Large churches across the country have had to change their normal Sunday sermons to accommodate the gathering restrictions set by government to curb the coronavirus outbreak. Grace Mission Church in Centurion is one such denomination that has heeded that call. Newsroom Africa's Sindisiwe Twala was there and filed this report.
Let the church help me. Sing
This is what a normal Sunday service looks like at Grace Mission Church in Centurion, near Pretoria. Boasting 800 members a service, a number that will soon be less than 100. All of this in an attempt to curb the spread of the coronavirus.
Initially, we thought we'll just split our services into 2 or 3 to lessen the numbers of people gathering at one time. But we realize the numbers are going up and there's a lot of fear out there and concerns, and obviously we want to contribute towards government's measures. So what we're going to do is to have a lovely, cozy, worship service. We're going to have a worship team, the entire worship team here, and some of our leaders, just attending. And we're going to stream that live on Facebook and YouTube. And we're making all efforts to enhance that. Fortunately, we had just begun streaming our services live, so we'll just be continuing on that and then making much more effort to make that a wonderful experience for all our viewers, for all our members, and so people can see it in their homes and worship with us and follow the word and the word of encouragement, because we believe that it's not just a virus issue, it's also a fear issue that comes with it.
Good Friday and Easter Sunday, which are coming up on the weekend of the 10th of April, will also be affected.
Easter is our big, celebration of the year, remembering the death and resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. That's where basically Christianity is hinged on. It's in the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Without that, there's no Christianity. So this goes a long way in impacting on all the Christian activities, not just here in South Africa, but all over the world. But we do understand what needs to be done, and I believe the spirit of Easter will continue to be with people, because the real church is the individual, is the person, not just the building.
Tithe and offerings will also be paid via online banking services.
When changes come, they're not only coming with bad things, I think they also come to let us adapt and change and improve the way we do things. And I believe this is a new era that will cause the church to expand beyond just the walls of the church.
This could be the new normal for the next few weeks. People streaming live proceedings as opposed to coming into the sanctuary. As many draw closer to religion at this time, the question now is, will this virtual experience give them the same kind of fulfillment? For Newsroom Africa, on Channel 405, I'm Sindisiwe Twala in Centurion.
Authorities are set to decide on the fate of a cruise ship that docked in Cape Town. 6 passengers have been evacuated and taken to hospital for tests with possible coronavirus. Gauteng sets up an executive committee to help deal with the outbreak. Premier David Makhura says they won't think twice about shutting down establishments. And the KwaZulu-Natal Premier says the encouraging signs that Covid-19 can be defeated. It's after the province's first patient recovers. And coming up in your sport, SAFA President Danny Odan says it's the association's responsibility alone to decide the future of local football amid the coronavirus outbreak. Thanks for joining us for the final half hour of News at Prime. Let's take a look at this. Ekurhuleni Mayor Mzwandile Masina has used his State of the City address to set out ambitious plans for the area. Despite fears that the coronavirus outbreak will delay government's projects, it came as the number of infections of Covid-19 rose to 116 throughout the country. The city of Ekurhuleni currently has 4 people who tested positive for the virus, while Gauteng accounts for over half of the overall infections. Newsroom Africa's Mbali Tetane has more.
Delivering the State of the City address during the time of Covid-19, the city of Ekurhuleni was forced to downsize on its usual spectacle. No guests were invited to the event, while proceedings were streamed live through social media platforms. President Cyril Ramaphosa has declared a state of national disaster and has banned gatherings of more than 100 people. But the work of government continues.
We must take this opportunity, Madam Speaker, as this council, to thank our President, President Cyril Ramaphosa, for the bold announcement of the new generation of University of Science and Technology here in Ekurhuleni. We have an opportunity to collectively redress historic and current injustices to enable this generation to be whole and economic, effective citizens in the main. What is now urgent is for us as this council to push for the enactment of this new institution through the Act of Parliament.
Masina says the OR Tambo University of Science and Technology is set to be built in between Germiston and Boksburg.
We've also secured a 43-hectare piece of land located to locate the university from a private developer around the Germiston-Boksburg area, where this university is likely to be located. This land was donated to us for free. With this, we seek to reposition education and training not only in Ekurhuleni but in South Africa through a well-researched approach. We dare not fail our youth, which constitute our prospective future as a nation.
The mayor has also tabled an ambitious plan of making Ekurhuleni the continental home for a Disney Africa.
With an investment on land demarcated of about 400 hectares, the city of Ekurhuleni will be home to a Disney Africa, a first of its kind in the soil of Africa. Throughout the continent, there is no such theme or amusement park of magnitude. Currently, Disney network stretches across the first world countries such as Paris, California, Florida, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Tokyo, to mention a few. The city must never stop these ambitious dreams, which are aimed at transforming our area into one of the most exciting cities of the world. When we spoke about the university, we were told we were dreaming. Once again, we dream about Disneyland Africa here in the city of Ekurhuleni.
Another dream on the mayor's wish list is for a Formula One racetrack.
The construction of Formula One racetrack and other hosting actually Grand Prix at the city has a potential of injecting over 25 billion rand of the South African revenue in the period, and also creating about 9,000 jobs if created. We are toying with the idea of finding amongst the strategic land parcel, make it available for those who will be ready to build a Formula One track here in Africa. And this is another dream which we believe will be attainable in our lifetime.
Masina also says the establishment of the much-awaited Aerotropolis is well on track. The city has also declared a slain struggle hero Chris Hani's home as a heritage site. The museum will officially open its doors in Dawn Park next month. For Newsroom Africa on Channel 405, I'm Mbali Tetani in Ekurhuleni.
The South African National Taxi Association has developed new protocols. It says it's ready to roll out plans at more than 1,000 taxi ranks countrywide to combat the spread of COVID-19. Santaco is traveling to various ranks to educate commuters about behavior that will limit transmissions. Hitekane Magwedze has more.
For over 16 million South Africans, taxis are the most affordable public transportation option. And now that the country has started experiencing an increase in local person-to-person transmissions, taxi associations want to ensure that taxis don't become carriers of the virus.
As the taxi industry, we are of the view that since the virus has crossed into our borders, our only response is to create new internal borders to isolate the virus and ensure that the 16 million that we transport is protected from being infected.
Protocols introduced by the association include sanitizing taxis and the ranks themselves.
The taxi ranks and renting facilities are kept clean and disinfected using certified chemicals, that all taxis are cleaned on a daily basis and thus disinfected as frequent as possible to ensure that chances of contaminations are reduced.
This campaign, however, relies heavily on taxi drivers.
While
commuters commend the steps taken, they want more measures to protect them enforced.
But now the question is, what happens when somebody already has the virus and comes more taxing, and what happens? Hand sanitizer won't help in that case. Can't we have something else, because masses are here? Can't we have something else to test? Do you have it? And then take steps from there.
Santaco has demonstrated the coronavirus fighting equipment that can be used at all taxi ranks. But it may not be time to get excited just yet.
We said within a few months we will be have implemented the program in some of the 700 taxi ranks in the country.
Santaco says it has limited finances to see the demonstrated plan rolled out at every taxi rank. It is, however, hoping it will be allowed to dip into the government's national disaster funding. For Newsroom Africa on Channel 405, I'm Hitekane Magwedze in Johannesburg.
The Northwest doesn't have any confirmed cases yet, but the province has beefed up measures to screen travellers. The busiest border sees hundreds of travellers and goods passing to Botswana daily. Every traveller is screened by health officials to ensure that no cases hit the province. Our reporter Zintle Kanyane was there and filed this report.
The Kopfontein border post is the busiest commercial border port in the province. Over 300 travellers come through these gates daily. Long lines of trucks carrying goods also pass through here. And although no confirmed cases have been reported in the Northwest, precautionary measures have been put in place in all ports of entry. Locals have mixed feelings about the preventative measures.
Re ka nna re mo Northwest ga ise nne ka lo thata nna re santse re le fernyana, so ga re tsose thata ka gore re mo Northwest ga ise itlale and le go tswana a ise utlo ba bua ka case ya teng.
Ha ke ikutlwe sharp ka taba ya corona osaka, because ba bua ka corona mare a go etswe sepe ke mare na di glove re na di wa bona le ba re ba o testa ba wetsa fela ka ntho ya temperature a bana di tools tsa o testa tsa make sure gore ona lona corona, so ke ke bua le wena so se ke na le ona corona.
Provincial authorities say prevention is better than cure.
And you know, this virus can survive longer in winter. And at that time, you get other types of flu. So we are now trying to contain the illness. And if somebody has illness, we want to prevent mortality. We don't want our people to die because of. So there are many considerations, why we are taking these measures now, even though there isn't a panic situation at the moment.
Although international trade between neighboring countries cannot be entirely stopped, the screening of travelers has tightened in the hope to contain the spread of the COVID-19 virus. And as confirmed cases continue to rise, the Department of Health is urging citizens to cooperate. For Newsroom Africa on Channel 405, I'm Zintle Kanyane in Kopfontein, near Botswana.
Now, there's been an outcry over panic buying as the coronavirus fears around the virus set in. Retailers have been running out of basics like sanitizers, wet wipes and toilet paper and cleaning materials. It has prompted President Cyril Ramaphosa to address the matter, reassuring South Africans that there's no need to stockpile. Now, while shelves are being restocked, what can ordinary citizens do to beef up their own safety precautions? Well, we're joined by Odette Duprier, who is a distributor of Greenworks cleaning products. Odette, I suppose that the shortage, if I can call it that we're seeing in your mainstream retailers of products is opening and creating more of a market for especially people like yourself.
Yes, we are at Greenworks. We are chemically free. It's probiotic based. It gives protection up to 6 hours. The bacillus, the strain, colonizes on the skin, and that gives the protection.
Sure.
Yes.
Now, we're being told a lot about the fact that whatever we're using needs to have at least 60% alcohol in it if it's a hand sanitizer,
yes.
to ensure that it will be efficient to kill viruses.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the alcohol base is one option, but soap is the better option.
Sure.
Especially if we look at 2-3 weeks of alcohol use, our skins will not be able to stand the alcohol. Mm-hmm. And what do we do with our children? Children also need to maybe go or drive or need to go to the doctor. Mm-hmm. Their skins can't handle the alcohol base. Mm-hmm. So the hand wash we supply is up to 6 hours protection. Mm-hmm. And because of this, it is safe on all skin types. Mm-hmm. Eczema, what do people do with eczema? They can't use alcohol base. Mm-hmm. So they can't go to the shops and get food. Mm-hmm. And all you need with soap is water. Mm-hmm. And we all have water. Mm-hmm. And if we have to walk to water, there is a possibility that we can wash our hands with soap.
Sure,
yes.
Sure. I want to speak specifically, when you say that there's a 6-hour protection, what does that mean?
Okay, so the 6 hour, the overall concept of probiotic enzymes, high hygiene, is immediately upon application. The probiotic enzyme bacteria will colonize the hands and prevent pathogenic bacteria, yeast, mold, from multiplying and spreading. Mm-hmm. So this tells us that with the probiotics, because you go from your whole hand, you can go outdoors, someone can sneeze, the bigger particles that carry the coronavirus, mm-hmm. It gets with the lipids, the food gets eaten. Mm-hmm. The virus's food gets eaten, mm-hmm. if that makes sense.
So basically it doesn't stick?
Yes.
Effectively, yes. Is that
yes,
what you're saying?
Exactly.
That's what.
So the enzymes eat the food of the virus. Mm-hmm. So if it doesn't have food, it cannot survive.
Sure. And are you finding that now, during this period, you have a lot of people that are looking for your products, that
yes.
want your products?
Yes.
And what are they saying when they come to you? What's driving that surge?
Especially the old age homes. Mm-hmm. They have the older people that the limelight is on at the moment. Mm-hmm. They are scared because they can be a bigger risk for the community, mm-hmm. and they need to protect their people. So most people we get orders of 100 liters mm-hmm. for one place. Mm-hmm. And the thing is with it's chemically free and it's eco-friendly. So we're also servicing the earth. And I think this is also a time where people will get the knowledge of looking at earth-friendly products. And Greenwork is that. So we're actually giving the water, we give back to the municipality, it cleanses. So if someone was sick with the coronavirus and they had the enzymatic, it kills as it goes.
All right.
So this is a very good thing as well.
All right, well, I tell you what, there are many aspects of this story and many opportunities, as you heard there, that it's creating even for business people who are, of course, in the sector and who undoubtedly have been operating for some time. But, of course, then the current need that we see also then puts them at another level. That's Odette Duprier, who is a distributor of Greenworks cleaning products. That's all we have time for tonight. Mark Lewis is standing by, who's going to give us a brief final update this evening, and then JJ at the top of the hour is going to take over. But of course, we're going to go out with Odette doing a little demonstration of hand washing for us this evening. Odette.
Okay. So you take the... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, even the table is getting a hand wash today.
But at least it's chemically free, so if it lands on your face, it is fine. So you wet your hands first, you take the product, any soap is better than none. So then you start rubbing. You can go like our president said, we must elbow grease. So we wash all the way up. We wash all the way up. Remember under your nails, so no nose picking at the moment, because then you put the virus straight up your nose.
Sure.
And then...
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Kiletso.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Oh, it's your fave sports reporter. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
We're coming out at 55. Let me go to her and see if we can go to Dan. Welcome back to Sports at Prime. Now, the Comrades Marathon was under fire this week after it announced that the 2020 edition of the famous race has not been postponed due to the coronavirus. Newsroom Africa reached out to the organizers, who said that their stance on the event has been misunderstood. We're joined now via Skype by General Manager Kiletso Tukliano, who's now currently in Pietermaritzburg. Kiletso, thank you so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it as always. So now, just to clarify, you and your team are not saying that the 2020 edition of the Comrades Marathon won't be postponed. You're simply saying that it is too early to make that call.
Yes, definitely, Mark. It's just unfortunate that our media release was misunderstood, and we really want to profusely apologize to the minister and to the running fraternity, because at no point as Comrades Marathon do we believe that coronavirus is not affecting us. We are aware that it's affecting us, it's affecting our runners, it's affecting the whole world. And at the moment, because we have not been able to find the correct date to postpone our event, we're not pronouncing postponement, but we will be able to inform the runners on or before the 17th of April.
So that is your cut-off date, essentially, the 17th of April. Unlike many other sporting events where there is the option to play behind closed doors, obviously there's no such option when it comes to a marathon. So is it as simple as the race will either go ahead or it will not go ahead? I mean, there are really no other alternatives to try and make the race safer for those competing, yet still be aware of what's taking place?
We actually wish that the race could go on. Definitely, we're not arrogant or adamant that the race will go on the 14th. Like every other person, we are observing the situation on a day-to-day basis. And depending on what happens on or before the 17th of April, if we are able to get the venue confirmed or get the date, we'll obviously be able to inform people if we are able to postpone. But we are hoping that should it not happen on the 14th of June, we should be able to do the Stasia event later in the year. And we will pronounce the date as soon as we are able to secure the date from KwaZulu-Natal Athletics.
I was just going to ask you what would then be the most likely window that the 2020 newly revised Comrades Marathon could take place if a postponement were the only option. We know how busy the calendar can be. What would then a likely window be like to try and put it in?
It will definitely be later in the year. As you are aware, the races like London Marathon, Boston has postponed to October. So we are also looking at some time later in the year. And as soon as we get the date from KwaZulu-Natal Athletics, we will pronounce that. We will inform our runners and the viewers and the country at large.
All right, Okiletso, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you joining us all the way from Pietermaritzburg. 17th of April, we'll be keeping an eye on the date and trying to find out exactly what is taking place with the 2020 edition of the Comrades Marathon. Just to clarify, they have made it very clear that it is not that the race will not be postponed, and said the organizers have simply said that it is too early now to make that decision. We certainly will keep an eye on that one. Now, the South African Football Association has postponed all local football until April the 4th. The country's governing body made a U-turn on the suggestions made by Sports Minister Nathi Mthethwa, who said that matches could be played behind closed doors. Manetla Tlela tells us more.
After meeting with the major sports federations of the country, including the PSL and SAFA, Sports Minister Nathi Mthethwa relayed this message to football fans with the league suspended due to the coronavirus.
As we speak, they can have their match tomorrow with no spectators though. And when they do that, there's an obligation on them. And one of those is to ensure that they follow to the letter the health and hygiene protocol as outlined by the Department of Health.
However, SAFA, who is the custodian of South African football, is singing a different tune.
We cannot sit and being part of a discussion with CAF and FIFA to postpone matches, and when it comes to our own federation, and we see that we have inadequate provision for the protection of the players' health, that we should proceed. So our position is that all matches must be postponed until we find a clear solution, and most of the league said by the 4th of April we'll make a further assessment. So there will not be matches until the 4th of April. So that is our position, and I hope you understand that position very clearly.
The Premier Soccer League is a special member of SAFA, with Chairman Ivan Khoza in charge of running the Premier and First Divisions of club football. Jordana has been firm on who runs football in this country.
You must go to the FIFA statutes. The FIFA says that SAFA is the governing body of all football in the country. Secondly, it says that the league shall be an internal subordinate body of SAFA. You go to the CAF constitution, it says the same. You go to the SAFA constitution, it says the same. And the league is our member, as a special member. And therefore, we have a special relationship with the league.
Despite Sports Minister Nathi Mthethwa giving the green light for PSL games to resume behind closed doors, SAFA insists that there won't be any football taking place in the country, following suit to what CAF, FIFA and other nations have done by suspending games. This leaves the big question now on what the next move will be by the PSL. For Newsroom Africa on Channel 405, I'm Manetla Tlela in Johannesburg.
It has been quite the show. News at Prime tonight. We're back again tomorrow between 6 and 8. Please do join Kathy and I. This is 405. That is where we leave it tonight. JJ and Lindy coming up next. This is Newsroom Africa. Please do stay with us.
I'm told you brought a corona guest. I mean, this is bad. It's bad.
And the problem is the corona guest wasn't even the worst of the lot. That's what says a lot here. Yeah.
It's bad. It's bad. Very bad. You should wash your hands immediately.
Piriken. Unali the lighter color. Was that the lighter color? Okay.
Who's directing tonight? Zam or Joanna? I want behind the scenes, guys. You must film Katie like this.
Pine gel is good for the face.